Back at E3 2017, we got a glimpse of a new game from Ubisoft. It was pretty well received as it came from the success of the naval combat of Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Taking what started there, Ubisoft wanted to create a dedicated game based around the piracy and skullduggery of the Caribbean. Skull and Bones was initially aimed for a 2018 release, but it still isn't here. So what the hell happened? What went wrong with Skull and Bones? This video is sponsored by me. I know, it's amazing. My band Sahara Line is releasing our debut single, Exile, on the 31st of July. So please go and check out our socials and YouTube channel if you're into that heavy rock kind of thing. It would mean a lot. And yes, that is me singing. It doesn't take a genius to notice the similarities between Black Flag and Skull and Bones, specifically the ship combat. Even some of the UI and assets are almost identical. Granted, this was an early version of E3 2017, so it was very early on in development, but it was obvious the big inspiration. And if I'm going to be honest, I think that's great. Ubisoft know the Assassin's Creed series is going to sell, so if they want to try out some new mechanics that they're going to later make into full game, I think that's the best platform for it. The initial showing was fairly well received at E3 and it went on to build a small community for the game. A community of hype, which anyone who has been around my channel for a while knows I do love a bit of a hype. The original concept for the game was more arcadey, though. A game where you almost play as the ship rather than a crew member on it, which came with some caveats, things that people weren't fans of. Yes, you could upgrade the ships, adding new cannons that do different types of damage, different pieces of artillery like fire rockets and scorpion type weapons. There are a number of cosmetic upgrades that you could also implement onto your ship, much like there was in Black Flag, but it didn't really have that selling point that Black Flag did. In Black Flag, you could anchor down anywhere, literally out in the middle of the ocean if you wanted to. Hop off your ship and swim about, go to islands, explore, find treasure, head to shanty towns, sell your goods and buy these upgrades. But Skull and Bones took all of this out. As far as I know, what people really wanted with this game was Assassin's Creed Black Flag, just without all the assassin-y parts. All the boarding sequences, the looting, the upgrading, the interactions with nearly everything in the world were all done through cutscenes. There wasn't really any gameplay there. It was your typical arcadey sail and shoot, if that's even a term, where you just go up to an enemy ship, click a button and bam, you take it over, you've board it. There's no hand-to-hand fight, there's no exploring, and as I said, this really came with that whole mechanic of controlling a ship rather than a person, and this was something that got a lot of backlash, so it needed to change. Fortunately, it looks as if it will, and it looks as if that's what they're working on. There has been a mention of a single player, but hardly anything other than the actual confirmation has been said, so it will either be taken out to focus on the multiplayer aspect of the game, or it's going to be a little bit lackluster, as a lot of Ubisoft single players are, which, you know, you can probably expect from this sort of thing anyway. But of course, the main changes will come in the multiplayer. So, in fall of 2018, did the game come out when it was supposed to? Well, not exactly. Well, not at all. Even at E3 2018, they said there was going to be a beta that people could join, but as far as I'm aware, that never happened. So, I don't think it was a surprise that the game actually never came out itself. In fact, it was pushed back quite some time, to early 2021. But why? Why did the devs need this extra time? Well, it looks like the game's going to be much bigger than what people initially thought. There are more RPG and co-op elements now in the game. It did look like it was going along this way at the E3 gameplay, but in 2018 they did show a bit more, looking into more of an open world rather than just an arcadey ship battle simulator. Upgrading your ship, gaining crew and cargo, hunting down and taking down AI-controlled ships, then going on meeting other players as well, being able to invite them into your group, making allegiances and of course making enemies. You can even take flags and banners from elsewhere to disguise your ship as an enemy or trading ship to get past deadly forts or bigger vessels that you wouldn't be able to take out on your own. All these things are nice changes, but the other day something else came. It was announced something a bit bigger was coming to the game. Ubisoft said one of the main reasons it was taking so long because a massive rework is currently on the cards. To be a bit more specific, they're looking to add in live events throughout the multiplayer servers. Of course, this confirms their focus on multiplayer rather than, of course, single player, but if you don't know what I mean by these live events, take Fortnite for example. having events that can be seen by all players across the game at the same time, no matter where you are. Now, of course, in Fortnite, you had those big fighting ones, you had concerts for artists like Marshmello and Travis Scott, and natural events like massive meteors hitting the world, and things like that. Of course, it won't be the same type of thing like in Fortnite, but imagine if you have massive storms that ripped across the world. Players had to find shelter and get out of the way before it tears through the Caribbean and their ship subsequently. Or large AI-controlled fleets that sweep through certain parts of the water, giving players the option to run or team up and fight. It could even go into the more supernatural, like a kraken rising up from the depths in a mass event seen across the whole of the online game. And this isn't that far-fetched. It seems to be something along those lines. You could see back in 2018 with the hint of the Kraken teaser. Now, whether this was them actually working on these live events all the way back in 2018, or it was just a mission or something to find throughout the world, I don't know. But surely now these worldwide and live events are happening and being confirmed, we could get something very similar. But what do I want with the game? And what do I think Ubisoft need to do to get players back on board with the project? Well, for one, they need to take a step back. They took a great game as a base, but strayed a little bit too far. We want the freedom to explore the open world. We want to be able to jump ship with our friends, go find treasure or hunt down enemy vessels and board them without being interrupted by constant cutscenes. Personally, I think Ubisoft games need to get a bit more hardcore and less handheld. Assassin's Creed Valhalla is starting to get this sort of concept, with less and less of the whole marking up enemies and obvious points to where the important objectives are and things like that. There's less cinematics to tell you exactly what to do and who you're going to face next. I mean, let's be honest, what's better storytelling and more exciting for a player? Heading out into a section of water, triggering a cutscene that shows a man of war heading straight for you and a voiceover telling you that you gotta fight it, or patrolling the lands, exploring a small island, and all of a sudden in the distance you catch a glimpse of a sail. Now as it gets closer, it's much bigger than you first thought, and oh god, it's the Navy. You rush back to your ship and decide what to do from there. Do you flee, fight it, or call for aid? I don't know about you, but I know which one I would rather have in the game. And that's what the freedom to choose gives players. Believe it or not, a better story, even in a multiplayer focused game. The game is now set to launch in early 2021, and I for one cannot wait to see what they do with it, especially now they have announced big reworks of the base concept itself. So please, Ubisoft, don't mess this one up. It has the chance to be so good, and I will be here to find out if it is, when they finally release Skull and Bones.